Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports with us on 365 Sports. Had an article today, really good one, about how the NFL draft has been affected by underclassmen, not nearly as many as in the past. The trend is down with NIL and transfer portal. We will get to that. And Dan also joined us because today, Dan, finally at least, there's some movement. The college football playoff format will be the 5 and 7. Do you feel like they got it right?
Yeah, I think it's the best plan at this stage. I think going, the 6 and 6. We don't need two group of 5. We haven't seen that competitiveness out of some of these group of 5 teams. To have 2 of them. We just watched Liberty kind of get destroyed last year at 12-0. I think 1 is good. 2 would be a little bit much. The group of 5 isn't what it used to be. The Power 5, or Power 4, or whatever we're calling it at this point, has scooped up a lot of these high-end programs. I mean, there was a time TCU was not power. Not Utah was not in power. Houston, obviously, Cincinnati, Central Florida. A lot of really good teams weren't in the so-called top leagues. Now they are. So it's going to, I think the Mountain West is a very good league. I still think there's some stuff from the Atlantic, but 1 is enough. I would have preferred the Pac-12 stuck together and we were 6 and 6 and make that last spot for an at-large bid a little bit tougher. But considering what happened to the Pac-12, this is just where we're at.
Dan, I know that the SEC and Big Ten in particular are going to make the push for specific automatic qualifiers. Do you think that kind of flies in the face of what they were trying to accomplish with this, at least the idealistic view of it?
Yeah, this is why I've been really critical of people who have kicked this down the line so far. And that includes the Big 12, that includes the ACC, the Pac-12 no longer exists, maybe in part because of this. They had great opportunities through the years, even the old Big East, to set up a playoff where there were automatic bids for all their leagues. And time again, they either refused to set up the plan, or they backed out of the plan at the last minute, or they spent their time getting up in their feelings about something else and rejected the plan. And, now we've got a 2-year window here, and we don't know what's coming after that. They always think that they're going to get just as good of a deal, if not better, going forward. But the power in this sport and the power in college athletics are with 2 conferences right now. They have the money. They have the programs. And so you cannot count on automatic bids in the long term. And literally 2 years ago, they could have agreed and had 6 automatic bids for an extended period of time, however long they were going to sign that. And everyone dallied, no, and now we don't know. You take a conference like the Big 12, it is imperative that they have an automatic bid into this playoff. And then ample opportunity to maybe get a second team in, because that's how you remain relevant. That's how you get exposure. That's how you can go out on the recruiting trail and say, hey, look, man, you come to our place, you can get in. I know it's a different sport, right? But Gonzaga basketball is one of the best programs in the country, right? They recruit a lottery pick practically every year. They're in the West Coast Conference in basketball. They are not in a competitive basketball league, but they can say, look, we'll play a good non-con. You come here, we'll develop you. We can win a national title. Nobody can keep us out. We have an automatic bid. That's how you get the recruits to stay relevant. And if you lose that, it would be devastating for the ACC and the Big 12 and stuff like that. So now you have to count on the goodwill of the SEC and the Big 10. That makes me nervous.
You just sound very confident there's going to be a lot of goodwill there, Dan. Got to be honest.
I hope so. But I thought there'd be a Pac-12.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I came on here last year and said there'll be no Pac-12 1 year from now, or 9 months from now, you guys would have thought I was crazy. Never had me back on.
Dan, I've seen a lot of the Notre Dame speculation in regards to the language here when it refers to the conference championships. And, oh, wow, Notre Dame's not going to get an automatic qualifier, or, there's not that out there for them. They can't get the first-round bye, but they don't play a conference championship game. You know the conversation about Notre Dame and how for years now people have been trying to find the right scenario that forces the Irish into having to eventually join up with the league. Do you think this is another step towards that, or is this just same speculation, but Notre Dame's going to be Notre Dame?
This is a good deal for Notre Dame. Jack Swarbrick, their AD, was one of the authors of this plan. Yes, they cannot get a top 4 seed and they cannot get a bye. And if Notre Dame is going to win the national championship, they would have to win 4 playoff games. Let me hold it right there. Notre Dame is probably not winning the national championship. Okay, they're a lot smarter than saying, "What if we put that together?" They only play 12 games. Everyone else got to play a 13. It's not fair for them to play 12 and then get a bye also. So this is effectively their deal. If they would have been in the top 4, okay, if they would have been good enough to get in the top 4, then they will be ranked 5th. And if you are ranked 5th, you're almost certainly going to play the Group of 5 champions. And you're going to play that game in South Bend, Indiana at Notre Dame Stadium. That is a fine deal for Notre Dame. If they can't make that work, then that's their own problem. That gives them the easiest first-round game at home, a chance to, Baylor, like schools like that, you have to market your school, right? Mm-hmm. Chance to show 15, whatever, 20 million. How many people are watching a playoff game? Notre Dame Stadium under some nice, December snow. And that's what they're trying to go for. So what they gave up is, yes, they don't get a bye and it's harder to win a national title. I don't think anyone at Notre Dame realistically thinks they're winning a national title at this stage. But what they're getting is a very, very favorable deal as the 5 seed. 5 seed is a very good spot. You don't get that bye, but it's a much better spot than say 6, 7, or 8.
Dan, what if a school that has a smaller stadium, 50, 60,000, and there's a lot of those, although there's of course a lot that have 75,000 and more, but they are really good. They have an incredible resume. They're ranked 5 through 8. Do you trust the committee to not play mind games with the size of their stadium because they get a first-round bye?
Well, I sure hope not. I mean, that they should be called out. If you earn your 5 through 8, we don't care about ticket sales, like 20,000 more people or whatever. I would love to see a playoff game in Manhattan, Kansas. Mm-hmm. I'd love to see one in Waco, Texas. I would love to see it in Fort Worth, Texas, wherever. Like, that's the on-campus is going to be so great. What is one of the best parts of college football? It's the stadium. We're not just cookie-cutter NFL stadiums here. And it's going to that campus. And the idea, obviously you guys understand it at Baylor, but, a playoff game in Waco, a playoff game in Manhattan, that's the biggest sporting event to ever occur there. It would be the biggest sporting event. Imagine you're sitting there at 6 and, a playoff game is going to be played and you're playing the 11th seeded Michigan Wolverines are coming to your place. Like, just an unbelievable night for these campuses and these communities and the money that gets poured in. Instead of taking the money out and putting it in, Scottsdale, Arizona or Miami Beach, the money comes to Waco and all these, Columbus and Ann Arbor and wherever, Tuscaloosa. But, imagine if Alabama's got to come to your place. And it can happen. And so they better not ever consider that. The small stadium, hey, even better. Let's do it. And same with weather and all those things. The only thing I would say on manipulation is if, you don't want to have a rematch or something like that, and you got to flop someone from 10 to 11 to set that up. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't really care so much about that, but don't admit it. But I'm going to investigate it. But I'd love to see a game in some of these stadiums. We don't need to just sell however many. I don't want to see them all in Ann Arbor and Tuscaloosa. I want to see them all over this country.
Dan, to that end, though, like, there are those top 4 seeds that aren't going to get home games, and they'll be playing in the New Year Six, which is a system that feels a little antiquated and antiseptic to me. Like you said, cookie-cutter NFL stadiums, to me, that should be reserved for the championship game alone. I just think it would be better because, like you just said, it's better on campus. What would have to happen to kind of move past that, or is that maybe a statistical impossibility given how much sway those 6 institutions, those bowl games have?
The sport moves so slow. What I do think will happen is those top 4 seeds are going to watch how fun it is for 5 through 8 to host a game, how meaningful it is, how exciting it is in those all the things we just talked about. And your Georgias and your Ohio States and your Alabamas or whoever's going to be kind of in that group and sit there and say, wait, now we don't get that fun? We got to go play a neutral site game. We don't get to get the recruiting advantage of all these kids watching. Do we get to bring recruits on campus, things like that? I think they're going to push for that second round to be on campus. That's what it really should have been. I'm with you. I would go all the way to the title game, like the Super Bowl. NFL's got it right. You're not, I was at the NFC champ. I cover NFL also. I'm at the NFC championship game in San Francisco, and the crowd is fantastic. There's Lions fans there, but mainly Niners. Nobody was like, hey, we should move this to the Alamo Dome. Right? Nobody's going, boy, I wish this game was in Atlanta. It'd be neutral. No, deal with it, right? This is the home fans get that chance to go to a game. So I would go all the way, but I don't think you're going to get to that. But that next step will be 1 through 4 saying, wait, we should get that. We should have that fun, and we want to showcase our place. So I think it'll slowly get there, but I'm bully on home field. I just think it's great, and I think the stadiums are great, and I love when everyone gets excited for like non-conference games when you see some like I just saw Alabama playing Wisconsin, right? You don't have to be an Alabama or a Wisconsin fan to be like, all right, that's cool, right? You want those things. We want unusual laundry laundry in unusual places.
So your article, NIL transfer portal effect, more college players eschewing the NFL draft. It's an amazing drop from what was 135 in 2019 to now 58 this year, and last year it was 82. NIL transfer portal, is it 50-50 or is it NIL 60, like 2/3 of that reason for them not leaving?
I mean, who knows? Probably NIL more than the transfer portal. I would say actually probably 3/4. So you have two things. Going on. So like you said, 135 juniors basically declared for the NFL draft in 2019. So 5 years ago. From 2016, and that's not from 2016 to 2022, the average was 115. So that's a pretty good sample size of triple digits. And every one of those years, it was over 100 or more every single year. So that's where we're at. And then all of a sudden last year goes to 82. We're down to 58. Now, at least 20 to 25 of those guys have first round grades on them. If you look at the mock drafts, you're going 20 to 25 guys are juniors. Obviously, Caleb Williams is not staying in college, right? Drake May is not. Marvin Harrison Jr. Fine, good. But if you take that out, you're down to 33, 35 players who don't have a first round grade or saying, yeah, I'm gonna go. And those guys probably have second round grade. A lot of them do, right? So you are keeping so many good players, and it could be Quinn Ewers, or it could be a guy who says, I'm going to be the 4th round pick, but I'm going to come back for another year. So I think two things play into this. One is obviously NIL. As an example, last year, Michigan launched a fund called the One More Year Fund. And it was like a group me, and fans could kick in, and they kept Blake Corum, they kept Zach Sinter, they kept a couple linemen, they kept about 5 or 6 really good players who would have been, hey, 3rd round pick, 4th round pick. They stayed, came back to Michigan, win the national championship. And so the money there for those guys, the difference between being zero and NFL money, or who knows how much these guys made, a couple $100,000, $500,000. Blake Corum set for the rest of his life the season he had at Michigan, right? He'll be forever hero. Whatever amount of money it was enough for them to stay. And there clearly wasn't that money as recently as 2022. So now all of a sudden there's that money. So I think you got those guys. You've seen a whole bunch of Ohio State kids say, it could be a Quinn Ewers going, I'm going to develop long term. I'm already making some money here. It's across the board. You can see it in all different programs, different sizes. So I think that's the biggest deal. The other is the transfer portal, in that if your coach leaves, you don't have to just say, well, I mean, we know like a quarter of the, I don't know, 20% of the country's head coaches leave every year. And your position coach leaves and you're going, I don't want to stay here one more year. I'm uncertain. You can go somewhere else. Go find your spot. Or, it just didn't work out for me as a junior. I'm just going to go pro. Oh, you go find another place. So I think it's way more NIL than transfer portal, but pretty interesting. We're talking 70 or 80 more really good football players who are staying in college football next year than maybe would have even 3 or 4 years ago. That's star power. That's continuity. That's fans getting to reward the guys they like. That's a positive. Not everything about NIL is a positive. Not everything about transfer portal is a positive, but some stuff is, and it's good for the whole of the game.
I have to respond. I have to at least mention your tweet last night between Houston and Iowa State, which was a battle of like blood and guts and attrition. Old school. Pistons in the 80s or 90s or whatever.
The Knicks.
Dan said in
Henry Iba.
Yeah.
This is like Henry Iba stuff. 38-35, man. We beat K-State,
In terms of defensive effort, Iowa State Houston reminds me of the NBA All-Star game, except not at all. I love that. That was great. That was great.
Yeah. You like a 397-point game? That's quite a Never thought it would be possible.
Dan, thank you as always, man. We appreciate you being on and being available whenever you can. We appreciate your time. Great stuff.
Always love being on with you guys. Thanks, man.
Dan Wetzel, Yahoo Sports, with us on 365 Sports. So there's the trend.